everybody. Good morning. Well, it's morning on my end. I hope you're doing well for yourselves, that your day's off to a great start. Mine, a bit slow, but it's not really about how it starts, but how it picks up and how it ends. Anyway, as you guys know, my elevated role in HESHIMIKA, or my expanded role, let me call it that, is one of lead program coordinator. And what that basically means is I'm running the program, right? And so my responsibilities are designing the architecture of the program, mobilizing resources, mobilizing the team, and overseeing the whole project end to end. And so 3 days ago, I had the first strategic meeting to pitch my approach to the program. I designed the architecture, structure, the systems, everything. And so I posited my recommendations to the team, that is including our founder and CEO. And I tried to record a bit of what I could. So that is what you shall be watching. And I'm now waiting their feedback. Nonetheless, there are other things that cannot wait. I have to get on with them because they are essential. They actually don't require any approval per se. So let's see what feedback I'll get. In the meantime, I'm gonna continue working on the checklist and the tasks on the checklist so that we can prepare for the program. Guys, hope you enjoy the video. A bit long. Feel free to skip or to watch it at 2x speed. Yeah, but it also really exposed me because post presentation I introspected on, okay, how did I go about this presentation? And there are a couple of things that I noticed I should have done better, and I will do better. This is during these situations and what you learn and how you go about the things that you are doing that you get to learn new stuff, you know. And so I'm careful to not turn a blind eye to things that can teach me something just because I didn't do them well and I feel discouraged or I keep cringing. That's not how to live. In fact, just looking at the fact that you did it terribly should give you even more reason to approach it with so much more grace and intention to learn, so that eventually you don't repeat the same mistakes. Because the truth of the matter is this: these are things that you still have to do anyway, so you might as well do them as early as now to reduce the embarrassment later in life, because now you have the grace to mess up and to learn, and the earlier you learn, the more advantage you have anyway. So you might as well just get through with it. Mark Zuckerberg lived by a philosophy: move fast and break things. Start early, fail fast, so that you figure out what you ought to do and what you ought not to do. You learn from those missteps and build from there. So that's what I'm trying to apply. Maybe not to the extreme that Mark did, but my own version of it, and that counts. And eventually, I believe I'll see the fruits. So, walk with me in that journey and let's see what comes from it. Enjoy the video, cheers, and I'm looking forward to where this is going to take me.
This goes a long way, and if we are to present this to would-be partners, would-be supporters, even TLO who invested almost $1,000 into the program, if he was to get this report, would it inspire him to give us 200,000? Remember, we were all angling for his 1.5 million. Well, God have mercy on us. Tukaenda Marriott something W. Watu walikuwa wanategea hiyo Marriott. So I believe God blesses our capacity, our structures. And with this, and I can't wait to hear what you have helped to kind of draft, because what are those who wouldn't want to happen? I wouldn't want people to think George has it all figured out, George is running with it, and all we got to do is agree and try to implement what George. No. I believe, George, if we present what you're presenting momentarily to this team and the subsequent actors, would be to say, this, from the benefit of an auditor, these are my recommendations. Then guys can consume, add, remove, and that I think would be the best way. Having said that, without belaboring the point, this is a tool that is immensely invaluable for the ELP program going forward. What I want to say in summation, because we'll still have to consume it and maybe circle back for another conversation, what I want to say is that I admit last year we winged it. And by God's mercy, we winged it. Shalom was asking me slides 1 hour to the meeting, and then Tito was a coach. He would forget. He would send Shalom a message in the middle of the night to get Ben to do the session. And Ben at that time was testing the soil, and coach was himself eating the products of the soil in Bondo. It was just a whole, the mercies of God got us where we were. And George, thank you. You are setting the systems, auditing the system, asking questions in the system, answering yourself those questions, evaluating your own questions, answering. So there was so much happening at once. How we survived and ended up with a, would I say, a high quality and high endorsement of commissioning ceremony, enough to have the partnership of the CEOs still hold fort and subsequently materialize, even though it took very long. And that's because, again, the same thing, that we had not set up the systems with the CEOs, and yet we had committed them. So it was all on the spur of the moment. And really, sometimes that's how you get things moving. If you have to figure it all out before you start, hardly would you start anything, isn't it, George?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So you guys, you are enlisted into the adventures of faith that I believe in. This is what we are. Unless, if we had to figure out how HESHIMIKA is supposed to pan out before we started, we would still be talking of a story of a lot of talk and maybe no action. But now that we have an action, reflection on action, reflection is kind of a way of simply auditing yourselves. Like before you end the day and retire your head, you can do a reflection on your actions for the day. Were they consistent with what you set out? So, for example, George, we need to also go to the master. It's called the law of the first principle. The first principle says, at the very basic, before we get to the technical analysis, at the very basic, what was the essence? How did we posit that we were going to run ELP 2025? So our original master plan, how far have we deviated from that? In fact, I'll just say, to be quite honest, we just dropped it and moved. hiyo Shalom Jiji alipotea na hiyo master ilipotea, hiyo document hata tujui kwa wapi. We never even George and Shalom, do you guys remember and Phil? Do you remember us talking about taking guys to Kisumu, taking guys to Nakuru, taking guys to Wapi, having boot camps? Well, those were the original ideas. And so we can say that that document ilikuwa ya bawa na ikapotea. So for now, I think we are better, George. Thank you. We are better because now we can decide what meaning do we give to that analysis. It's us to give it meaning. I do not think it would be fair to ourselves and to those who have been onboarded. And I'm not talking of at least, I'm talking of as a matter of fact that we have achieved a milestone. The question or the philosophy I want you to adopt, George, and all of us, is what I used for my master's work. I call it appreciative inquiry. So with appreciative inquiry, it posits that when you pick the positive experiences, lived positive experiences of the past, they become prophetic and they inspire you, they incentivize you to move forward, hoping for the same experience. So you keep asking yourself, when it worked, what made it work? How have these 9 come through? So we make those 9 our focus. Not that we don't notice the ones who dropped off. We ask ourselves, we had 72 applications. We had 51 onboarded. How did we succeed on boarding 51 out of 72? What worked? And those are the things we pick and we better them. Then out of this 51, 23 succeeded. I'm not looking at the 29 that did not succeed. Not that they're not important, they're important. But if we focus on what made the 51, what made the 23, what made the 14 who came for the commissioning, and then what made the 9 who have been now, who have come from onboarding to offloading into the market. Those 9, if George, you were to have a conversation with them, even one-on-one, and listen to what informed them, and document that, that is the recipe of HESHIMIKA's success. I don't know if the guys are making sense on that. Shalom, are we together? Yeah? Because ordinarily in life, we easily can think in terms of what did not work, and sometimes there many things do not work. But for me, I'm an optimist. You have to bear with me for that because I look at one is too many in the economy of destiny. And it's not at least. I am saying one is not at least. One is at most. And Shalom has written to us a whole thesis on maximizing the minimum. Or is it minimizing and maximizing and maximini? Shalom, what was it? What did you call it? Maximizing? Maximizing. Yes, that is what we need to do now. If that was our minimum, not the least, if that was our minimum, how do we maximize it? So much for that, George. So let's remember the first principle. The first principle is how CEOs think. CEOs, when they want to make a decision, they adopt the first principle. They do best thinking. Best thinking is you go, if we didn't know anything, what do we know? And what we know is that 9 mentees have come through for the last 1.5 years and they've gotten here. And then we go to what we call second order thinking. After the first principle thinking, we go to second order thinking. Second order thinking is a cause effect kind of a thinking. It says, if this happens, then this will happen, either as a consequence, positively outcome, or a risk. So if we do this, the second order to that thinking of that if, what would we see happening? If we got 100 mentees, because I see, if you guys, I'm willing to push, we are likely to get even 500. It's possible. So if we got 100, then what's the second order consequence to that if? So that way we prepare. It's a way that as a CEO, as a model, mental model, that helps you to always create scenarios in advance. So George, you've given us the if. Now, then what's the consequence of that? Because what we did not do, we did not think if we got 72, then what would happen? And the final thing is what is called the Occam razor. Occam razor is basically to say we find the simplest explanation to the most complicated situation. Okay? The simplest explanation. How do we simplify this, George? What's the simplest explanation to the most complex situation? If we can get those three principles and mental models in place, we get, I'm doing coaching to you guys as well as I'm also helping us to be inspired to move forward as corporate thinkers. So, number one, the first principle, we go to the basics, but today our basic becomes what we have. That is what we have now. If you are starting it afresh, what would it be? The second, it's the second order thinking. If we got this, then what's the possible effect of a course we want to initiate? And thirdly, the Oka razor principle, which is to say, what's the simplest explanation? So the simple explanation George has alluded to, Shalom has decoded it, Phil has decoded it. I am saying is structure. The simplest explanation was structure that allows for three things: implementation, evaluation, and no, it's implementation, feedback, and evaluation. So we used to do the feedback forms, but the feedback forms were not consistent. Even why were we doing it? What was it to mean to us? So if we can get a simple explanation, I think many things will fall in place. So George, I don't know if that helps, George. Does it help?
Yes.
All right. So I think what we want to do then, before we move to the next one, is George, do you agree that Phil can note as a matter of record for this resolution, for this action, that you post a motion? George, can you post a motion? Then we can vote for that motion for this bit of the meeting. You're the chairman. To always wrap your ideas, you always post a motion. Post a motion to us. What are you asking us to say, or to agree or not to agree on?
Okay. Wow, you put me on the spot. I didn't even thought about it. Yes. To pose a motion in regards to what we've just discussed.
Yes. If I'm not wrong, I think that's the next part. Oh, okay, very well. Sorry, then Phil is helping you. Then let's go to the next part, George. Don't worry, that's for another day. Go ahead.
Okay, fine.
Hizo ni vitu nimejifunza hapa na chocha nao wazungu mpaka wanashangaa.
Eh,
So,
yeah.
I'm not like that. Hawa watu wanashangaa huyu Mkenya ametoka wapi? So, unaona hata mimi na represent
Yeah.
Haya, sawa, go on, George.
Okay. Thanks for that, coach. I would say that has also given me a new angle or a new perspective to look at this from. And I believe that even with the presentation I'm coming into next, will reflect what you've just talked about so profoundly. And even just submitting structure into those three elements. Shalom has her hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, thank you, George. Just a quick concern. I wanted to know how long we'll be here. Like, how long the meeting will last.
Yeah, good one. This is exceptional, Shalom. You know, we always take only an hour at most, but George has put a lot of hours into preparing this, but it's fair to ask that question. So, George, how much long would you need? Then we'll also see how much time we need to respond to.
Okay, initially I had set the meeting for 2 hours because I knew the vastness of what I wanted to present.
I can't hear you.
I'm saying I had initially set, even on the calendar, I had initially set the meeting for 2 hours from 8 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah, because I knew that there are certain aspects that I needed to get through as a basis. I wasn't prospecting that we were going to have a discussion today. I just thought that today I'll be positing it. But given that discussion that we've had, maybe I'll just try and rush through what is remaining, and then
So hold on. Shalom, you want to sleep at what time?
9:30.
If you extend to 9:45, I will pray for you to have a quality sleep. Sleep. Yes. Shalom, can we adjust it by 15 minutes so that we give George ample time? We'll try to keep it within the 15 minutes remaining. But is that fine? Or if you must zoom off, that would be fine if you must zoom off at 9:30. Is that okay, Shalom?
Yes, I may have to zoom off at 9:30.
All right, very well. Well noted. So, George, you may want to continue, then we'll take note of what Shalom will say within the time that you'll have presented. Go ahead, George.
okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, the way you've captured the structure in those three elements: implementation, feedback, evaluation, I think that summates it perfectly. When you look at what we have on our screen, so today's agenda, we had 5 things on our plate today, and one of them was discussing, not really discussing, but me positing the recommendations I have, because as coach, you had said, it's not me just saying that I'm running with something and everyone is just on board. I want to recommend, and you pound on it and then you share your feedback. So one of the agendas that we had was to discuss of the multi-year approach and the life cycle framework that we are supposed to be using. And according to our strategic plan, priority number 1, services and products consolidation, we have on our product enhancement, developing a scalable digital learning platform, creating certification programs, and design a modular content delivery adaptable to different contexts and delivery modes. And this is also talking about creating a scalable um, and consistent what is it called, curriculum and program design. Yes. So given that that is our first priority, I took it upon myself to prepare or to think along those lines. And ever since you and Eula told me that you have expanded my responsibility and jurisdiction to be the program lead. Ever since then, 2 months ago, I got right on it and I started actually formulating the kind of program life cycle would be ideal to Heshimika. And this is what I want to posit today before I bring in the ELP 2026, because this is very crucial to give context to that. Now, because you already watched the videos, it will be very quick. I'll cruise through it just to lay that foundation, and then we jump into the ELP 2026, and then we can close it out for today. So the idea is to synchronize the future of African leadership in all the facets that Heshimika is focusing on, because we have 6 main domains that we are positioning ourselves in the community on. And I think looking at ELP, it stands at a very critical point that interconnects certain elements of it so perfectly. Maybe not all of them, but we'll get to see which ones they are. So this is the operational blueprint for the 2027 program, which is the foundation that I'm talking about, that will give context to how 2026 is going to shape up. So it's the idea is to bridge academic theory with professional leadership. To eradicate youth unemployment is our ultimate mandate within Kenya, East Africa, Africa, and hopefully, Coach, you've always said, think globally but act locally, as a start, of course. But that's our ultimate mandate. The cultural mechanism is essentially to position ourselves as a cultural point for you know people, or young people in this case of in this specific context of the ELP, to resonate with us the same way they resonate with different stages that they get into in life, because it makes it like a rite of passage. And that's what we want Heshimika to be. We don't want it to just be um, another program, another short course that somebody does. We want it to define a cultural zeitgeist in our community. And I think that's the best way to go about it. That is why I've highlighted the NYS, because it marked up a critical stage that was mandatory for people to go through. Now, maybe we might not have policies that create the compulsory aspect of doing Heshimika, but creating that self-driven incentive for somebody to say, I must go through Heshimika, that should be our goal. A highly selective mandatory rite of passage, like I said, is bridging the critical gap between university and professional deployment, and that is how we are planning to execute it. So, the four pillars of cultural engagement that tie into that are timing, precision, cultural anticipation, exclusivity and prestige, and formal generation. We want people to feel that they are part of an exclusive echelon, and it gives them an incentive to also bring other people on board. Cultural anticipation is where it engineers students in early university years to develop an aspirational intent, viewing the ELP as a mandatory future milestone. So in their calendars, they mark immediately, I am in this particular, stage, I have to go through ELP. And timing precision is it addresses that critical stage of the transition from university to professional leadership. Former generation, it's a positive fear of missing out, where people don't want to miss out on the opportunity of being part of the Heshimika ecosystem. And so it elevates the program from an educational curriculum, which is, I believe, how we've been running all the previous models, and we want to redefine it into a cultural phenomenon. And so these are the five phases, as we know: the theoretical foundation, then we have the professional application, which is the apprenticeship program, which we introduced last year. Then we have the one-on-one mentorship, which has been a constant ever since. Then we have the ESRP implementation, which we did not do last year, but from my experience during my cohort, I really did enjoy it. So I believe it's time to bring it back. So commissioning is the final phase. Now, we know about module 1, 2, and 3. I don't need to touch on that. Then the corporate apprenticeship value exchange. Now, we want to create a symbiotic relationship between Heshimika and our corporate partners. And we already have that with the CEOs Association and with C.O.T.A and with CANAPCO, and I believe that it can only be elevated further. And I also posited strategies on how we could do that also with ICA Lion and any other company or organization that wants to work with Heshimika. And so on your screen, you can see the value captured by Heshimika and the value that is delivered to corporate partners. So basically, the corporate partners get 80% reduction in vetting, meaning that they get pre-screened value-aligned candidates. Even when they advertise for a job, for example, a vacancy, it's easier for them to say, you know what, we trust the Heshimika guys than just somebody who applies from outside. So for them, that's something that they would get from it that's valuable. It will de-risk their recruitment, because obviously there's that um, not benefit of the doubt per se, but let me say favor that the candidates within the Heshimika ecosystem have with them, and then it creates a seamless hiring pipeline for them, because they know, oh, there's this apprenticeship program, and we have we are opening internships for people who want to work in the organization. So since these guys from Heshimika are going to finish their theoretical foundation, do the exams, and then come in, then those are the guys we're going to be working with. And what that does is, in turn, for Heshimika, people who would want to get into those companies will be incentivized more to get through Heshimika, because they will see, I mean, that's an easier path instead of me just going to apply, and hopefully I'll get the recruiters to notice me and get me in. Yet if I just get into Heshimika, you know what? I mean, there's that favor. So it also brings people into Heshimika, and that's what we want. We want that reach to impart the Heshimika philosophy. So we get that flexible deployment to deliver on our UVP, which is the apprenticeship program or the apprenticeship branch of the program. Then the financial marketing and support, the same way with ICA Lion last year. And then we have the ultimate mandate progress, where we have high potential for permanent absorption, directly eradicating youth unemployment, which is part of, it's actually our main vision and our goal with ELP. Now,
Phase 3 is personalized mentorship, which is the one-on-one. I characterize this on a very personalized dynamic between the alumni mentor. Now, this is how, I mean, Phil talked about the Ascent Leadership Program where there is no continuity in the community. And so, one of the ways that we can make sure that Heshimika does not face that as a challenge is ensuring that the alumni are still as engaged in the program currently, even if they are outside of it. And the best way to do that is, Coach, you talked about TOT and bringing in the alumni of last year's cohort to train them so that they can also train this year's cohort. So that's a good way of ensuring that there's that intergenerational continuity. And the areas that they touch on, given at this stage, it will be after the apprenticeship program. They're going to look at the apprenticeship reflections because it's also just as critical to ensure that our mentees are getting the best experience with the partners that we have. Juu wakienda huko nje wanaweza enda waseme, hey, I went to Eshibika and that experience in the apprenticeship wasn't good. So it's also a good place for us to also touch base with them and find out, okay, did you have a good experience, so that we also know how we can strengthen our partnership with our partners, that they can give them the best experience. And also for the mentee, they know how much better to navigate their careers, because this is a career launch pad for them. Co-evaluation exercises, they're going to go through them and they get to refine them. The excellency manifesto, which has always been the case as far as one-on-ones are concerned. Future pathway planning, it's also in correlation with the excellency manifesto and the apprenticeship reflections. The reveal, where we talk about the individual proposals for the ESRPs, which we've said we want to bring back. And then the program experience review, to know how the mentee experienced it. And I'm sure you've already read what is on your screen. Now, for the ESRPs and the 1 to 10 scalability architecture, now this is a ratio that I was using as a backbone to determine the approach you are going to use for the ESRPs. Okay, so suppose we have 100 mentees. Now, it will be a bit challenging to have all 100 ESRPs, because the idea is not just for them to think about a social responsibility project. We want to have a social responsibility project that they will actually implement and make something out of it. And I know, Coach, you've expressed a desire so incessantly of how it can go beyond just it being part of the co-evaluation exercise of excellency of community. People to take it as far as Cindy has, making it an organization that they've run with for years. And so to be able to do that at a scalable level and also as efficiently and effectively as possible, it's good we break it down in a way that majority of the time when people are thinking about an excellency social responsibility project that they can implement in their community, more often than not, there are so many similarities. And so if we are able to break them down in a way that we can categorize them as one, where we have 100 individual proposals, if you're able to break them down to 10, and we have 10 mentors, or even 20, right? 10 or 20 mentors who can come in and support them and like guide them, be the head of the project, so to speak, and support them on the journey of implementing this. It can also build a culture of teamwork within the cohort, because now when they are grouped, they're able to work together. So that's something that we could consider as far as ESRP goes, especially when you're operating at such a scale of 100 plus, or however big the number is, when as far as you're talking about mentees. And so this is how it looks like: one alumni mentor, 10 mentees, one community project. So I hope that this mock-up has simplified what I'm trying to say. Then the phase 5, generational continuity and commissioning. Now, here is where we are talking about the commissioning ceremony. In the current format, we have the launch and then we have the commissioning ceremony at the end. But I was thinking maybe there is a way, even as we've talked about the 2025 impact report, we saw how the turnout was low during the commissioning ceremony. Is there a way we could make it better? And I just thought that it would be so much better and so much easier to, even financially and resource wise, to bring the outgoing cohort and the incoming cohort together at the same time to signify a passing of the baton moment. Okay? So being able to create that nexus in which they're able to interact, they're able to get that inspiration. Because now, when a mentee who is coming into the program for that year, they're like, man, I want to be there next time they're having a commissioning ceremony, because they're seeing that guy who is there and there's like, yeah, I want that too. And so that gives them also a bigger incentive to, get in and actually see the program through. And so this is what it looks like: a passing of the baton, outgoing cohort, commissioning, incoming cohort launch. And so it happens at the same time. Obviously, the main focus will be on the commissioning, and then we have the launch coming as a subsidiary, but it serves that purpose of passing of the baton, and it shows that Heshimika is not just a program that you come in and go, it's also where you leave a mark in the people who are coming behind you. So that is the cultural significance that I was integrating in this particular phase of the program. Now, this is a whole synchronized calendar
George,
that you
let
will
me
look
pause
at
and
on your
just say,
own.
wow. What, George?
Yes.
Where were you with the Lord and me? Hey. Tuanze kwanza kabla umalize hapo. Shalom, before you take, I know you've extended 3 minutes. Let's hear Shalom's input. That effort, George, cannot go without Shalom commenting before she leaves. Then we can consume it further. What? George, I mean, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. George,
Yes.
send me the invoice. Send me the invoice. Shalom, the invoice doesn't phone. The invoice does not phone. He had a phone. It's still connected.
I've been trying to rush because of Shalom.
I know, Shalom, I'm put your pressure, but it was good because you also have to learn the art of brevity in presentation, so that your audiences get
Yes.
the key of it, so they don't lose the otherwise very good presentation. But this is good for today. I'll guide you on presentations
Okay.
later, because when you're doing like Shark Tank presentation,
Yeah.
those guys within a minute they have evaluated, so you have to hit the. But this is because it's an internal. This is a think tank session, so think tank, you need to give us much information. But when we present it to, based on why we are presenting it, but this is amazing. Just
Yeah.
catch your breath. Let's hear Shalom, because I want to respect her presence also. Go on, Shalom, give us your feedback.
First of all, George, that is good work. I think we have really been missing out. I've joined HESHIMIKA in 2014.
Yeah.
But this is good work. I think one of the things that you said that I really snapped, and I think we should actually apply, is the commissioning, or rather having the previous cohorts and the coming cohorts together, having the launch, having them attend the launch and sort of encourage the incoming team. I think that's a very brilliant idea. We should also kind of rubber stamp whatever message you're trying to share. And yeah, I think that's one thing that I have really loved. I think we should implement camp.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, in fact, that also has caught my attention. It goes back to our mobilization and onboarding, and then because entry behavior dictates that how somebody enters, it dictates how they participate inside. If they entered casually as a matter of affiliatory Lintuma, because I was the president of the student council, so I had to come because, after all, I mean, it's obvious. So if they didn't own it, so I hear you. So Shalom, I think that's a good feedback. So let's have George conclude, then Phil and I can consume it further. You can take leave at liberty, but if you want to stay because you've been converted, it's still okay. Appreciate George's effort. Go on, George. Thank you, Shalom.
Okay. Thank you, Shalom, for your feedback on that. So essentially, this is the connection between what will be happening on the front end and what will be happening on the back end. So when you look at how I have outlined each arrow, there is the first part, and then there is a stroke, and then there's a second part. Now, the second part is the staff operation, and then the first part is the mentee action. So, when I say mentee action, I'm talking about this is what they'll be engaged in, while us on the back end, there's something else we'll be doing. Okay? And so, this is the multi year approach so that we are able to hit as many of our domains as possible, ESRP, apprenticeship, e-shift, because we have a number of domains that we have embodied over the years, and some of them have been dormant. So I think it's time to revive them. So I can send you to look at this at your own time. That's basically it, and this is more of the simplified version of it. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. This is what will be happening on the front end, and then this is what will be happening on the back end.
Simplified. Okay.
Yeah. Now, when we're looking at the ecosystem, because as somebody who is engaged in innovation and business, professionally, I look at companies like Apple, right? And one of the main competitive advantages that they have, in fact, their biggest competitive advantage is the fact that they have an ecosystem that not so many other technology companies can brag about. When you buy an iPhone, you get a MacBook, you get AirPods, you get an Apple Watch, you get the Apple Vision Pro. As in, there's everything for everything, and everything connects to everything. And so, if you're able to create an ecosystem that enables each and every facet or each and every domain that you are engaged in to thrive and to interconnect, then that's how you win. And so when we look at ELP cohort plans and executes ESRPs. The ESRPs generate success stories that can be used to fuel okay, Your Excellency Awards. Where now, and the eShift Summit can act as a massive public marketing platform to bring people into ELP, to register for ELP. So it's a marketing cycle that feeds into itself based on what we are doing. And so it just pushes each and every other sub initiative that we have. So these are the main cultural milestones: the commissioning and launch ceremony in January, and then we have the eShift Summit in October and the year in November. Then for the 5-year horizon, which is the long-term vision as per our strategic plan, is to reduce unemployment in our country, in our continent, and globally if possible, and also to create alternative pathways for people who want to venture into business and entrepreneurship, if at all, going the corporate route isn't really their thing. And then we want to also establish Heshimika as the go-to regional empowerment organization to solidify the excellency philosophy as the Pan-African standard. Then, yeah, the readiness is just a matter of setting up those structures like we talked about. And that is what brings me to the end of the multi-year approach. And you're going to see how it fits in perfectly to this year's approach, and how it's just going to seamlessly get into that uh, blueprint. So yeah, for that one, hapo ndipo imemalizia. Then sasa tufanye anything.
I mean, once again, George, this is amazing. This is intense work, and I'm odd. But not every word that appears on excellence, it must be excellency. No excellency, it's excellency. And
Okay.
I'm glad you also noted that whenever you write Heshimika, it must be in capital. So those are our two brands.
Yes.
Heshimika is capital, and excellence is excellency.
Yes.
That's our Syriet. But that said, I think this is amazing. So we definitely need to consume it further, and then digest it, and then have bits and pieces of it that we can run with. Yeah. Phil, what do you want to say about that presentation so far?
Yeah, I think this is brilliant stuff, George. Especially the fact of the connection of the various domains within the HESHIMIKA ecosystem. Yeah, My father is a man of many words and many ideas. So you being here to connect now everything for him. You know, the what's it called? The word I'm looking for, but you get the point.
The missing link.
So, yeah, the missing link. Yeah. So yeah, I think you pretty much given us even 10 years worth of wisdom in they go at 20 minutes. So yeah. Now it's the execution part. That's where now we need to be concrete about. Yeah.
Yeah, nitatuma invoice.
No, actually, I'm serious on that, George. You know, some of these things, how we do them is that we pay forward so that tutaonana naye hapo kando. Ama mimi nitaamua what I will appreciate this with. But this must be appreciated intensely, especially because its implementation will generate all the resources we ever would need.
Yes.
And so it becomes something that we can easily say when this happens and we get to this milestone, we will definitely want to sema asante kubwa sana. Na wewe najua mambo ya biashara sio mambo ya the Lord bless you at the champion of excellency of the year t-shirt moja ya gold and black. Your biashara is what speaks, and you never know. I mean, but suffice to say, George, that this is, and Phil, I'd like you to also appreciate this. This is how you get into the marketplace. I've always said, when I mentor young people who are looking for jobs, do not send an application letter. Do not send your CV. You see, if I had a chance, I'm looking for, say, director of programs for HESHIMIKA globally. So we have Africa chapter, we'll have diaspora chapter, we'll have America chapter, Europe chapter, we'll have Asia chapter, because we already have our alumni are interspersed across the world. So we can easily have global footprint. So this is not a hearsay, it's something that is real. And if you look at our strategic plan, by the way we have curated and how TLO has guided us, it means that in the next 5 years, as we faithfully implement it, because as Phil has said, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. As we faithfully implement it, HESHIMIKA is easily a multi-million dollars worth of an enterprise. And so there's no way you can mine a gold mine and remain poor. It's not possible, George.
Yeah.
There's no way, after this job, there's no way you should be looking for a job for innovation and social entrepreneurship. This is your job already. So if you send, which not if, you have submitted this, who else? The way Joseph alifanya Egypt, and that's a mindset I'm having here. I've set up systems of programs here for these guys that they'll either have to increase my salary or they will need me. Because they just have an interpreted dream, and interpreting dream means decoding complex things with the Oscar Raza kind of approach. Simple, the most simplest explanation of the most complex situation.
Yeah.
And then you are the one who, I mean, not in a way of playing blackmailing, but you become needed because in the implementation of it, you definitely must have thought. That's how Joseph said to the king to Pharaoh, said, well, that is my interpretation. Take it or leave it. They say, you have interpreted this. Who else would we need to implement your dream interpretation? In fact, why prime ministers, even Joseph Obama in Egypt of the day, or for America of the day. So I see myself using that even here. I want to come to a level where I'm interpreting dreams of the issues that are affecting this case in simple ways. I've never thought of it that way. And so that's something that even you feel need to take note. George, if you go on this way, there's no way you'll miss your opportunities of excellency recognition wherever you go. So I am very proud of you. And with Phil as your deputy, because, you are the two guys actually running this program. So Phil, if George is on the strategic thinking, you must up your game in the strategic implementation. Flesh for George pieces that he has spoken that you think from each slide, what's the one action? From each slide, one action. And then when George submit this to us, you can help with fleshing. Just pick, because Phil is very good, George, with summarizing concepts. Yeah? So
Yeah.
he's your, I believe, in fact, godly ordained able assistant. So the two of you guys, there's no way. And then with Shalom there to do internal communication for the team, because Shalom is not an outside communication guy. I mean, person. She's an inside communication. So ensuring that everybody that needs to support you knows what they need to do and how fast they need to do turnaround for you. So she'll harass people. She'll send something on the group na timu yetu ni ile ile, si watu walipoteza mojo wapi, but now we are back. We are back in full force. So I'm very proud of you guys for this. And with Eula, you can be sure Eula will pick this and present it in total in corporate language as a corporate strategic master's holder. She will also be able to help me, guide me. For me, where I'm coming in as a founder chair is I'm going to connect resources, connecting you guys, connecting resources. Like what you've said, for example, we need, rather than thinking of NYS, I want you to study Nordic countries. Phil, and you can help George on that. Phil is very good with research as well, George. So you guys check how Nordic countries curated programs that became almost mandatory, not almost mandatory for all the young people to go through during summer holidays. So it was a mandatory 2 months window in your final year of each stage of studies that you must go through that program. And that's how they inculcated values for the whole society. So that can be a good model. NYS was set up for more political reasons, and so mentioning it sometimes it elicits or evokes for people who are mandatorily taken through NYS, like Napielo, that's the generation that were taken through it when it was fresh original. My elder brother Tito, they went through it. It was torture. So they don't remember it very fondly. So what was brought in most recent years that you know of, George, is a version of NYS for weaponizing the youth in an official way. Again, that is what was used by Hitler and other tyrants. They create something that is pseudo-paramilitary. So they send them, you think they are NYS, but they are militarized. And they're given guns, because that's what they did in, I think, 2013. NYS guys were given guns, but they were trained in military tactics to go and attack the opponents of the system. But suffice to say, George, amazing, amazing, amazing work. All right, Phil, anything else? Then we can have a bandwidth for another few minutes, George. I've never sat for such a long time since I came to America.
Yeah, this
But
is this is
it's
the
worth
last
it.
one.
Okay. Phil, we can let George comment, give the final one, then you can comment. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely, because I don't think I have anything to add on that second
All right.
part.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, very well. George, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I had no idea about the NYS thing, honestly.
Don't worry, you are learning a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, we move on to this for this year, the ELP master plan for 2026. Now, the operational architecture looks like this, and I have organized it down to the weeks and the dates so that we are able to hold ourselves accountable. Now, in March, we have the foundational design and the operational system set up. Okay. Then we have the team activation in April, registration and selection, of which actually on that I'll touch on because I was updated by Yula on a, I don't want to call it a command, but a directive that you give. So I will also touch on that.
I give strong suggestions, not directives.
Okay. Yeah, so the stop suggestion that you give.
Yeah.
Then we have the theoretical foundation, the one-on-one, the ESRP, the evaluation, and then the commissioning. Now, phase one is this, what we are doing right now. Today is on 13th, and as the dates indicate, from March 2nd to March 13th was me putting all of this together so that I can share with you guys today what the architecture looks like, which is what I'm sharing right now, how we are going to do the resource alignment, looking at the budget and the frameworks that you're going to use as far as risk mitigation is concerned and the likes. Then we have the team structure. Who do we need to run this program? Okay. So as you can see, the milestone is March 13th leadership review, which is today. With you, Yula is blessed, so she wouldn't be here. Then we have the
Oh,
critical.
she's already laid down her burdens.
I don't know. You are the one who told us.
Okay, okay. But see, na kama ametaga nitawaambia.
Okay.
Yeah, she was on a frequency of anticipation.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So phase two begins on Monday, which is building the scalable operational systems, talking about performance, having the KPIs, and the SOPs that will guide how we are going to operate. We already have the platforms that we were using last year in Google Classroom, Google Drive for saving our documents, and the Google Calendar to schedule for the sessions. And we also have the WhatsApp community and groups, and we also have the emails that we use for official communication. So these systems are explicitly designed for a 50 mentee current scale because it's critical to note that even from our 2025 impact report that we need to be very strategic in understanding, okay, how we performed last year and what that demands of us today. Like you said, what does it call on us to do? What is the action? Because we now know the numbers, we know what the data says. Now we just need to know, okay, how do we align with that data for maximum benefit? So on March 31st, we have the full blueprint delivered and a fully integrated operational guidance where we are going to also work with the tech team because we have our tech guys so that we know, okay, this is what we shall be using for the program. We have our partnerships in mobilization in COTSA, KENAPCO, who are mobilizing the students for us. On that particular note, it brings me to, before I actually touch on the team activation and operational readiness, on the registration, vetting, and selection. Now, my strategic rationale behind the late registration at first was given the challenges we faced last year. Because for me, as I was designing this program, I was mostly borrowing from the mistakes we made or the missteps that we had last year to avoid repeating them as a as a basis as foundational before we even think about adding more things or doing things that we hadn't done last year. And so I was mostly borrowing from that. That's why the impact report came in handy. And so one thing that I noticed that actually I will say was a consistent theme across all the challenges that we had was we were operating on edge. We were always doing something in the moment. Like you said, we were winging it, you know? So it was always last minute. So I thought the best way to mitigate such a scenario, it is to force ourselves to prepare everything before we even talk about launching the program so that we have an incentive internally to say we have no choice but to do it before, in this case I had scheduled for May. And so I targeted that we open the registration in May, knowing that we have our mobilization partners in Kuds and Kenapco to help us out with that, so we wouldn't really need that big of a timeline to market or even using resources to market the program to get people on board because we already have the mobilization partners for that, and having like 2 weeks to have them apply and then we get to vet the applications and approve the 50 that we need to approve within that 1 week before we launch the program made sense. Now, when the storm suggestion that you gave fell on my desk, I saw the logic and how it still aligns with this, because this is more of when do we get to actually do the vetting and approval. So if you're talking about opening up the registration, we can open it now. We could have opened it yesterday. Nonetheless, we are still not going to close it until we are sure we are ready to roll out the program. Because if we close it and we do the approvals and we tell people, okay, you are into the program, yet we haven't even, laid out the foundation of everything that we ought to have as far as finances go, primarily because that was a very huge bottleneck for us last year. Operational readiness, systems, the structure that you just talked about on implementation, feedback, and evaluation, it will be doing them a disservice, and it will also be us repeating the same missteps that we made last year. So I wanted us to force ourselves into a position of rising up, because we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And so despite the fact that we have a vision of wanting to have a successful ELP, we will be lying to ourselves if we go into it the same way we did last year. So that was my rationale behind it.
Absolutely, I agree, absolutely.
Yes. So phase 3, week 1, system familiarization and role clarity. Week 2, resource confirmation and partnership finalization. This is mostly actually because for the COTSA and KENAPCO is, we will say we are feeling a bit more confident with them. The ones that we are not so sure about are our financial partners, or at least for me personally, I haven't really gotten any updates on that. So I believe that it is strategic for us to make sure that we start working on it as early as now, so that by week 2 of April, we are able to be sure, okay, these are the people we are working with, this is the budget we are working with, this is what we are able to pull within our own capacity as Heshimika, so that even when we are planning for, okay, we have the launch event, we have the commissioning ceremony, we can even slip in, the boot camps that we were talking about last year, kama ni moja, so that we know, okay, how can we, as much as we want to mitigate on the chances of repeating the missteps, we also need to, bring something new to this year's edition as well. And so that is where the resource confirmation and partnership finalization comes in. Then end-to-end platform testing, making sure that Google Classroom still works as good as it did. We need to have our TQM and analysis, analytic tools to ensure quality, to ensure that our ecosystem of operations and communication, especially communication, because that's an area we've been failing in so badly. We need to make sure that it is taken care of. Then we have the transition planning and leadership briefing. Now, for this part, because I'm in my final semester, I wanted to make sure that, and this is why I've started planning for this in March. Last year, we started planning for it in April. So I wanted to. Yes?
Planning as you are moving already.
Yes!
We are already pre-committed. Nothing. Hiyo meli ilikuwa ni ya kupeleka watu pale wangefika. Alright, so I see you put the deputy director, deputy coordinator, that is Phil.
Yes. Now, during that month, because I'll be my final month, I wouldn't want to be an inconvenience to the team. So, okay, not that I will be an inconvenience, but maybe I will be needed, and, I will probably be committed at school and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that everything that needs uh, prior activation will be done by April 30th, so that I can hand over to Phil to take care of the registration and the finalization part before I come back in June to launch the program, because I'll be finishing my exams around 5th of June. Yeah, so that was that.
That sounds practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. And in any case, Phil, George, one of the things I strongly believe is that we must form teams. So Phil will not be doing it in his person, but he will be getting it done.
Yes.
Because the idea is we'll have a checklist.
Yes.
So long as we have a checklist,
Yes.
that we check every week, every month as we are progressing, and then there are those regular routine.
Yes.
Phil is an aviation inclined person. So like ndege iweze kutake off. Hata kama ni experience pilot, kila siku ikienda kutake off.
Yes.
Kuna routine checks, those things. So Phil will have that master whatever.
Yes.
And he can be giving it to whoever needs to be working on a particular component to make sure that they check and report to him, and he
Yes.
reports to the team. I think that should work.
Yeah, it's actually part of the TQM analytics tools that I talked about in week
Okay,
3. Yeah.
excellent.
So
Okay.
we've covered that. I think for the registration we'll stick to your storm recommendation
What were you told that strongly recommended?
that we begin the registration by end of this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So phase 5, instilling the theoretical foundation, which is now the sessions like we did last year.
Yeah.
So we have the personal, professional, public. We do it between June and August. And this time we actually integrate all reinforcement sessions because last year we cut out on 2. We only did 1, so we need to integrate all of them.
Yeah.
Phase 6, high touch mentorship and consolidation. The one-on-one will take place during that period between September, actually in the month of September because it's from end of August to beginning of October. And we are able to also synthesize their 50 individual social responsibility proposals and consolidate them in a way that that they can be implemented on a scale that's sustainable. Going back to
Before I forget, and Phil can take note of this somewhere, let's think in terms of thematic areas or topic or emergent issues of society. So each team high impact team project would be tasked to do a project. So even as we are onboarding the people, if part of their application needs to indicate which we can give those 10 areas, thematic areas that this year HESHIMIKA would want to equip and empower them to be relevant in.
Yes.
So as they apply, we know we have 50 people who are inclined to say we can use the same for consistency. Let's say the eight what are those things for? Yeah. The industries. Yes, exactly. Sports and entertainment.
The 8 spheres of excellency.
Exactly. So that we are also being very intentional. Then you see those will be the champions of mobilizing nominations, voting in those particular pillars when it comes to maybe subsequent years. So that's just a quick thought that we will not struggle how to form those teams. So from the entry, we know huyu ni kama history ya CBC ama CBE, tunajua mtu ameshachukua pathway fulani, akiendeleanga atakuwa released mwishowe through hiyo pathway. Yeah?
Yeah.
How does that sound, Phil and George?
Sounds great. Actually, you know, funny enough, Coach.
Can you say something? I'm just saying it gives us like a clear path of execution. Yeah, great. So the ecosystem flywheel. So it's
it goes back to that.
Excellent, good.
Yes.
Good. Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
So let me rush through this quickly. Phase 6 is all about the consolidation of the ESRPs and the one-on-ones. And then we have the implementation now of the ESRPs between October and November, those 2 months. The first month is to plan, then the second month is to implement. Then in December, we now consolidate all the data that we need to verify who is to be commissioned, who has qualified by looking at the theory. This is the data dashboard. These are the metrics that we shall be using. The theory, the theoretical foundation, the mentorship, this is the one-on-one, the impact through the ESRPs. And by December 19th, before we break for the holidays, they know who who is getting commissioned and when the dates of the commissioning are. And so we're able to do that. And then we would have also opened up the registration for next year's cohort in the month of October when the ESRP phase begins, so that they can have 3 months to apply. And then we are able to consolidate all the data, vet all the applications, and as we are sending the the commissioning letters to the outgoing cohort, we now send the acceptance letters to the incoming cohort. So what that means is when we send those letters and dates, it now goes into the 2027 blueprint, which is we have the commissioning and the launch on the same day. And then now we kickstart the program at the end of January of 2027 for that incoming cohort. Yes.
Okay. That sounds excellent. That sounds excellent. We can still tweak the dates based on the education cycles or terms, trimesters, and whatever for Kenya.
Yeah, I had actually taken those to consideration. And
so in that period,
yeah. Mm.
January to, let's say in January,
Mm.
is it a time that students are in session?
Yes, my rationale was because
Yeah.
when we've had several meetings with the CEOs Association, and
Yeah.
last year's edition of the program, the apprenticeships are kickstarting on April. So when I look at how it fits into our program life cycle,
Yeah.
I am anticipating that is, it's going to be an annual thing, so it's most likely going to be next year in April, right? But now, April is when people are doing exams, so it's most likely going to be pushed to May, because from May, that is when they have their long holiday. And we don't want them to get into the apprenticeships before they do their theoretical foundation. And during my cohort, we did the theoretical foundation in the month of February. So it actually fitted perfectly because we finished right before I started my exams.
All right.
Yes.
Very well. I believe there's good wisdom to that. So I think that is quite okay. So I say you had put another slide for what your request is to the team.
Yes. Which is approval for that framework, and also feedback, because it's not just me seeking approval for what I've thought about and come up with. I also want to hear what is the team saying. Maybe there are certain elements that I have overlooked or underlooked, and they would like to give some valuable feedback on that. And then it's a work in progress. So by the time we are clocking April, because April is actually when we're supposed to have the team activation, by then we would have already come up with a fully integrated operational blueprint.
Right.
Yes.
So the Madam Executive Director
Mm.
has consumed this content. Has she looked at it?
I believe so, because I sent it to her.
All right. So what we'll do is, without delaying you, I will, because I also don't want to usurp her mandate, because I like her to keep the mandate of executive decisions,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
Which I hope you appreciate. But I know she can be slow. Though I know the speed governor the speed may have been released if she lays down her burdens, if you know what I mean. So once she's relaxed, so we're not tied to that. Let's put it this way. Anything you need to start working on now, I will assume her role, and I will give provisional approval for you to start doing the next step that you need to do, but I know there are timelines. So I'll give provisional approval pending further discussion with the executive director. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, so Phil, you can take note of that as a matter of minutes, so that the lead coach gave provisional approval requested by the programs director, pending further consultation with the executive director. So if that allows you to continue wiggling what you need to wiggle, I think that would be helpful. How does that sound, George?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah. Okay, Phil, you've documented that in a way that it will be clear.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right. Very well. Great. So I think what we'll do is the idea was that it was me and Yula to receive this today, And
Yes.
then you were to present it to the bigger team later. But
Yes.
I thought, by way of fast tracking things, we can save the distance, because I don't think you're going to say anything that is too sensitive for the rest of the team to hear. So since the critical person is your deputy, which is Phil, and Shalom, who will be doing internal communication. So there are issues that will need the team to support you. So in terms of requesting for the meeting, Shalom should be able to do that once we agree on the way forward with the. But I think her initiative to start getting people onboarded for weekly or bi-weekly meetings, that will be a platform. Then you can now set an agenda the way we used to do. But we know standard, we meet every week on, was it Tuesdays? And then what changes, the only thing that changes the agenda. So one session we have somebody presenting on this aspect, another meeting we have somebody presenting on this aspect, and that way the organization was continuing. So just like we have staff meetings every Tuesday, and each department comes to give its top level feedback in the meeting. And the meeting does not necessarily discuss, but consumes, that there's a sense of you've been heard, you've been seen, you've been valued. So I propose that Phil does the summary as soon as possible, maybe within 48 hours, say by Monday. Phil, is that okay? Phil?
Yeah, that's okay.
So by Monday, so if you need to listen to the AI note taker and consult back to George. So once you draft the first draft of the records of minutes, you can share it with George as the chair, so that George can confirm that that is a true record of what was agreed and the feedbacks that were given, and then resolutions that were made. So when you take minutes, you don't write people's names. You do not say, Coach said this, Shalom said this. That I see people, even Americans, say they don't know how to write minutes. In fact, they don't even write minutes for their meetings, and a lot of things have gone wrong. And so you just document what did this was presented. On this was suggested. On this was suggested. On this was suggested. Or this was resolved. This was agreed. That's the kind of language you use. So you're more of summarizing the spirit of that conversation. Then George can endorse as the chair and you as the recorder. And then once you share that with George, and you can share it with Eula, then based on that, she'll bring it to my attention what we need to discuss with her as a way forward. But I think I don't necessarily have to influence what meetings you guys are going to have. You guys can go ahead and have meetings. For me, I've known what I need to do top line. Mine is to ensure that you do not change the name HESHIMIKA into small letters, George. And two, you do not change excellency to excellence, George. And thirdly, we are true to the spirit of HESHIMIKA, which is virtues, values, and principles. So I heard you mention that we are out to address unemployment, which is partly true, but ours is bigger than unemployment, George. It is building the agency and the capacity of youth to impact society, if I was to put it philosophically that way. Because we are building their agency. So the agency is at personal, professional, and public. Now, whether their agency will mean employment or deployment, that is something that it comes off the ESRP. But our pre-commitment is that we want to have quality citizens who are able to make their impact felt from a point of the virtues, values, and principles. So if you are able to just tweak those 2-3 things, I think for me, the whole document and presentation is spot on. Okay? Yes?
Yes.
Great. So Phil, you can make a comment, and then George, you had something else? Or this was the last one?
This was the last one.
All right, excellent. So are you satisfied with your expectation has been met? George?
Sorry, my laptop was hanging. Yes.
Oh, okay, good, good. Right. So we've said no, unfortunately. No. The next word we've deleted is what?
At least.
At least.
Athleticism, yes, at least haiko. Because we cannot talk at least. George umetuambia hivyo. Mambo ya Heshimika hakuna mambo ya unfortunately. We are optimists. We are solution providers. We look at whatever is happening. Others will call it unfortunate. Us will call it circumstantial renderings. Yeah, we call it the circumstantial renderings are such that I'm not able to come. You don't say unfortunate. George, umesikia hiyo? Okay, Phil, make your comment and then we can. But George, what else do you want to say before Phil? Then I can pray. Or Phil, make your comment. George can have the final word, then I'll pray.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much said everything I needed to say.
Okay.
Yeah, the preparation before execution part, mobilization partners and financial partners being set in stone, and communication being key and paramount, so that we are able to be seamless in our operations. Yeah,
Excellent.
that's all.
Very well. Thank you so much. And then I think the other thing, George, in all this, and I like that you've kept your corporate color, gold and black. I would also want us to think, but that will come later, in terms of how do we brand, because branding will be a big thing. The website, I've got somebody here trying to come up with something, so we'll see. Eula is looking at that with that person. But website is critical. Then we have the, I think we need to have capes, and we need to have jumpers, or not jumpers, hoodies, and good polo shirts, so that from the get-go, when we have these online sessions, we present ourselves as professionals. What do you think, George?
Yes.
So nisikuja na kofia ya power, na mwingine anakuja anasema linda mwananchi, mwingine linda kura, mwingine jilinde. We want to just, and then those are some of the things we can also use from, as far as cash flow is concerned. So if we have, as part of the costing for the program, and that's something we also need to look at, George. How do we cost the program? Because the fundraising is directly proportional to the costs we anticipate. Just something you didn't speak to, and it's a big, big thing in this whole program.
It
So if
is
I'm
in the
asking for somebody to
document
support
I
the
sent.
program. Yes, sorry?
It is in the document I sent.
Okay, pardon me for that. Yeah, so there's a sense in which we must be able to, as I ask people to support it, they are someone going to ask, how much does it take to train one mentee for the whole program? I need to say with integrity, well, $250, but with good validation. What does that $250 speak to? And then we know how to work it out. All right? Good. George, anything else?
Just emphasis on the financial aspect, because from my predecessor bill, that was a very huge touch point from his experience when he was running the program last year. So
Yeah.
I really trust that we shall take that into full account and as a priority this year to avoid the same situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think last year the truth of the matter, so you well know, jumped into this thing legs after the head, and we just had to discover where the hands were after the legs have followed the head. And I think without disparaging our chief patron, I think we all jumped into the idea of 1.5 million coming. And we settled as my if I with 1.5 million, why should it be doing fundraising? So we slackened on fundraising to 1.5 million. Well, we 1.5 million in Singapore on your way to Canada. Tukafika Singapore. Okay. current envisaged source of funding, right? So as it is now, we are only looking at the students paying, so it's the organic fundraise payment. So which can still work, but we want to first look at if all factors constant and we don't get any organization or even individuals contributing, the default, that's the first principle law. What is the base thinking? The base thinking is that if we got each student paying their 5,000, we can get the program running. Then the second level will be, so what we go to the second order principle. If we got 5 organizations contributing 100,000 each, all right, maybe the CEOs Association and others, ICEA and others, then we say another tier of funding is this. Then we now go to the final one, which say grants, because that takes longer. So we go by how fast can we each turn. Moja ni nduthi, kwenye ukanayo umeenda, hiyo ndio ile ndogo. Ya pili ni kaprado hivi, ingine ni jet. So you know you can't procure each of those means of transport at the same time in the same level. So that's the way I'm thinking about it. So let's think about